Hello and welcome to the eXp Executive Masterclass series. Today we're going to dive into one of my favorite topics, which is the art of sponsorship. It's building culture and retaining agents. I'm Susan McLean, Vice President of Agent Success at eXp. And inside all of us is one of the most powerful tools that we can use to change how we connect with those around us. And it's the power of communication. So think of sponsorship as communication in action. So it's how leaders bring out potential. It's how they create an environment that inspires others and they want to stay and they want to grow in the organization. So I've spent the last 15 years studying and practicing how to retain agents. And I'll tell you what, how to be a good sponsor, that's something that didn't come naturally to me right away. I really had to learn about it. What does it take to be a good sponsor, whatever that means in the organization that you're in? So when I was a managing broker and I recruited someone to come and work for me, I was still their sponsor because I was the reason that they joined the brokerage. At eXp, it's a little bit different because you don't hold the license of the agents that you sponsor, but you're just as influential and sometimes even more influential, right? Because peer relationships are just as important as the relationship with the brokerage. So Lynn Dowdy said, sponsorship is about putting your name and reputation on the line for someone else. It's one of the most powerful cultural tools that any organization has. And boy, she is so right about that one. So sponsorship, culture, retention, communication, these are all woven together. Now, our agenda today, we're actually going to go into sponsorship. What does it mean to be a great sponsor? We're going to go into retention, the reasons that agents leave a brokerage and the main motivators that drive them in real estate. And then I'm going to show you a toolkit that we're working on to give you some best practices and some action items you can do to put into practice everything that we're going to learn today. Now, have you ever heard this quote? All I really needed to know, I learned in kindergarten. Well, that's kind of true with sponsorship. Even though it took me a while to learn it, it is something that we basically all learned in kindergarten. So what did we learn? We learned in kindergarten, number one, share everything. For sponsorship, that really means guidance and connections. And I'm so excited to dive into that here in a second. We also learned play fair, that when someone else wins, we all win. So how do we help the people in our organization win too? And then we learned don't hit people, right? So now for sponsorship, let's call this how to build relationships, okay? And then we learned when you go out into the world, you watch for traffic, you hold hands, and you stick together. And that right there, that's retention because everyone needs someone. So how do you be the someone for the agents in your organization? So let's break this down. Let's talk about sharing everything and creating connections with the agents in the organization that you're with. So if you haven't read the book, Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh, highly recommend it. It's the Zappos story. And so it's one of my biggest takeaways from the book. And by the way, that book was one of the books that kind of changed my perspective on retention and creating culture in an organization. But one of my biggest takeaways from reading the book was when Tony Hsieh had someone that wanted to work for him or had someone that just wanted to learn about the Zappos culture, he didn't bring them into a conference room and he didn't share their core values or say, this is what our culture is. What Tony did is he gave them a list of like 5 to 8 people and he said, go meet these people, go talk to them. And when you're done talking to those people, ask them who else you should meet. Now, the Zappos was famous for the culture that they created when Tony was running the company. And people would literally move from all over the world to be part of the Zappos culture. And Tony was a master at making connections. He knew that the employees at Zappos, if they were only connected to him, that the culture wouldn't work. There wouldn't be a culture. So he had to make sure that the employees, they were connected to each other. So help your agents make connections. No one exists in a bubble, right? We all need connections to others. So help your agents by introducing them to other people in the organization, other people on your team, other people in the company. So who's good at listings? Who has mastered open houses? Who's building an inspiring organization? Connect them with the people that have similar goals to what they have. Now, we're going to talk about retention in a couple minutes. And when we do, we're going to talk about understanding what motivates your agents in real estate. And when you understand their primary motivator and you can connect them with other people in the organization with the same motivator, well, you just get bonus points right there, right? So learn how to create connections between agents in your organization. And then share everything also means giving guidance, right? So guidance isn't necessarily coaching or training. It depends on the relationship that you have with the agents in your organization. Sometimes you have a coaching or a training relationship with them, but sometimes you don't. And agents are independent contractors. So you're not holding their license. So guidance and, guidance, it might be more about sharing best practices, right? Or lessons learned. It might be more about, hey, here's some resources that might help you with onboarding or becoming a mentor or attracting agents to your organization or whatever might be beneficial to them. And the type of guidance and suggestions that you give typically will depend on the relationship that you have with those agents. So agents in your front line who named you as their sponsor, you'll typically have a different relationship with them than the agents in your second, third, fourth line and on down. So sometimes guidance, though, comes best in the form of stories. Since a lot of us aren't necessarily officially coaching or training the agents in our organization, telling stories is sometimes a great way to give guidance to other agents without necessarily overstepping that relationship. So I had a recruiting and a leadership coach years ago, and we were talking about the goals that I had set. And I said, I'm going to commit to doing X, Y, and Z, right? And Jim, the coach, he said, well, what should happen, Susan, if you don't hit your goals? And these were all leading indicators, not lagging. So I had full control over whether or not I hit my goals. And he was like, well, what would happen? What should happen if you don't hit your goals? And I'm like, well, Jim, I'm not going to hit them. Like, that's what's going to happen. And he was like, no, I think there needs to be consequences, right? And he knew that I was and I am a big animal person. Like, I love animals. If I won the lottery, my poor kids know that I likely won't get any of the money, right? I'm going to be like, sorry, kids, I saved a dog today. So, money's gone. Get back to work. But he knew that I was a big animal person. And so he said, okay, why don't you do this? Why don't you make a donation to your local animal shelter if you don't hit your goals? And so I said, okay, that's fine. And he said, well, it's not going to be something little. It's not going to be like $10 or $100. Like, it has to hurt a little bit. And so we ended up negotiating $1,000. So if I didn't do what I told him I was going to do, I was going to donate $1,000 to my local animal shelter. We started off the negotiation with $5,000. I felt like I won the negotiation because I got him down to $1, but that's probably was his, he probably did it on purpose, right? It was probably the whole point of what he did. But long story short, I actually hit my goals and I made the donation anyway, not the full 1,000, but I made the donation. But what I learned is I had to put skin in the game, right? That there were consequences if I didn't hit my goals. And I've shared this story with other agents that I'm not coaching, but agents that have come to me and said, you know what, I didn't hit my goals last quarter or last year. And I didn't do what I thought I was going to do. So I would share the story, not in a way of, well, what are you going to do if you don't hit your goals? What are your consequences? But I would share the story of, this is how I learned the consequences, right? There were consequences of not hitting my goals. And that, I'll tell you what, that lesson has helped me so many times in real estate. So share the stories, whether it's a story of yours, it could be a story from another agent. That sharing stories is a great way to give guidance to the agents in your organization, especially when you're not necessarily coaching or training them. And then asking, what do you need from me as your sponsor? And there was a question I learned from Jack Canfield many years ago. And he said, a great question to ask anyone that you're in a relationship with, a business relationship, right? This can be your clients. He said, rate our business relationship on a scale of 1 to 10. And ask them that question. They're going to answer the question. They're going to say it's an 8, it's a 3, it's a 5, it's a whatever it is. And then you say, what would make it a 10? So ask the agents in your organization, rate our business relationship on a scale of 1 to 10. And then what would make it a 10? Look for the missing link. And if you can identify that missing link, that in itself is going to be invaluable to your agents. So ask them that question. And then what do you need? What would make it a 10? Is it onboarding help? Is it mentor help? Is it attraction, help? Is it the attraction toolkit? Is it scripts? What do you need from me as your sponsor? And so that's a great way to give guidance to the agents in your organization. And then we also learned in kindergarten, play fair, right? So when one of us wins, we all win. And recognition goes such a long way. It's just a human need to be seen. So recognize your agents for showing up to a training, for showing up to eXpCon, a regional rally, for taking action, for calling their sphere of influence or holding an open house or whatever they're doing that's showing up and taking action. And then we have to make sure that we don't gatekeep either, right? So gatekeeping is definitely a no-no to be a great sponsor. If you find something that's working, share it with others in your organization. Help others win, and even do something as simple as creating masterminds for the agents in your organization or in your team, and just say, what worked for you this week? What worked for you this week? What worked for you this week? So going around and making sure that you're not the gatekeeper and that you're helping the agents to understand what's the next step in their evolution of being a fantastic agent, right? And then relationships and retention. So this is when you go into the world, you watch for traffic, you hold hands, and you stick together. So all the things that we talked about above, they add up to retention, but we're actually going to go deeper into the retention side of things here. I actually had a mentor ask me years ago, she said, Susan, do you love to win or do you hate to lose? And of course, I was like, well, duh, it's both, right? I love to win and I hate to lose, both of them. But she made me choose. And so I had to choose one. And if I had to choose one, it's going to be hating to lose. Because for me, winning is great. Winning feels good. It's wonderful. But when you lose to someone else, I hate that. For me, it's the worst feeling in the world. So in real estate, loving to win has a lot to do with attraction, right? You're beating out all the other companies. You're winning over every other company that, that agent was thinking of joining. But hating to lose, that's retention. And so when you have an agent on your team or your organization or your company, and they choose to go somewhere else, it's like a knife in the heart, right? It's the worst feeling in the world. So retention has more to do with building culture than anything else. Great culture can build strong organizations, but bad culture or non-existent culture can tear them down in a heartbeat. And culture is this very broad term. It's intangible, right? It's a feeling. It's hard to define, but you can spot it, right? When there's culture, you're like, oh yeah, this group has culture. So how do you build a feeling and something that you can't touch? Well, there is a process to building culture, and step one is to define a purpose. And a purpose is something that brings people with different experiences, different backgrounds, different skill sets, and it brings them all together. And you need a common goal. You need something that everyone can get behind and contribute to. And you determine what your purpose is, and then you put it up in the window for everyone to see it. And you make sure that it's visible everywhere in your team or your organization. But how do you define purpose, right? How do you get to that one common goal? If you have a team, one of the best ways is to rank the priorities in your team. So is the number one priority in your team, is that your team members? Maybe it's your clients. It could be your customers. It could be making money. It could be production. It could be something completely different. There's no right or wrong to this because this is your team. I did this exercise with a group of team leaders the other day, and we had a team leader, and she said, the number one thing in my team is making money, because with money, we can do amazing things in our community, and we can do amazing things for our agents, right? So make sure that you rank the priorities in your team. So what's number one? What's number two? All the way down to number 5. And maybe it's something that's not on this list, but rank the priorities, and that will help you determine what your purpose is as a team leader. Now, if you have an organization, it's going to be a little bit different. Your organization priorities might be something like professional development, right? It could be providing agents with tools, training, resources, everything that they need to hit all of their goals. You could say we're a group of agents coming together for collaboration, building a community where agents share ideas and referrals and all of the good things, right? So you could exist to help agents collaborate within your organization. It could be innovation and staying ahead of industry trends. It could be well-being, right? And putting balance back into the lives of the agents in your organization. It could be your clients, attraction, production, right? It doesn't matter, but choose something that you say, this is why we exist. This is who we are. We're coming together to do this thing. Now, your purpose doesn't mean that you have to focus on that exclusively and not do anything else, but it's your guiding light within your organization. Now, I know an eXp team whose purpose is to drive home ownership in their community. And I love it. When they told me, I got goosebumps. I just thought it was the most amazing thing ever. And so you can create within your team or your organization, we want to give back to our communities, right? Whatever feels right to you. Now let's talk about the power of your purpose. Once you define what your purpose is, there is a power to it. And in the early 1980s, something terrible happened. I don't know if any of you remember this, but someone laced Tylenol pills with cyanide. And there were 6 people that died in the Chicago area. There was mass panic, mass confusion. The Johnson & Johnson leadership, this obviously wasn't on their business plan, right? They didn't know how to react to this. Nothing like this had ever happened. And so the FBI and the FDA, they came in and they said, okay, we're advising you just pull Tylenol from the shelves in Chicago. Like if you pull it from the entire United States, there's going to be just mass panic, right? And they also, by the way, if Johnson & Johnson pulled Tylenol from the shelves of everywhere in the United States, it was going to cost them over $100 million. And that was in 1980s money, right? So Johnson & Johnson, the leadership, they went back to their purpose. And they had defined their purpose even before this horrible thing happened. And their purpose was this: we believe our first responsibility is to the doctors, the nurses, the patients, to mothers and fathers, and all others who use our products and services. And so they said, this is our purpose. And so what they ended up doing is they ended up initiating a nationwide recall of Tylenol. And their stock, because of that decision, had the largest rebound in history at the time. So super cool what they were able to do with this horrible thing. But they said, we have to stand by our purpose. Now, hopefully you don't have anything that horrible that happens in your team or in your organization, but having a strong purpose helps you make decisions. It brings people in your organization together, and it attracts the people that you want to work with. So let me say that again. Having a strong purpose attracts the people that you want to work with. And that has a power that cannot be replicated by anything else. So once you have your purpose, once you say, this is why we exist, this is why we're coming together, this is why we're doing what we're doing, you have to tell the story of your purpose. And remember, you have to put it in the window, right? Put it in the window where everyone can see it. That team that I talked about, whose purpose was to increase home ownership in their market, their purpose is everywhere. It's in every listing presentation, every buyer presentation, marketing piece, tagline, social media. Like, it's everywhere because they said, this is our purpose, right? Super, super cool what they're doing with that. Now, how do you reinforce it? You develop your purpose. You say, okay, I know what the number one thing in our organization or our team is. So how do you reinforce it? Well, number one is you share stories. You find agents on your team or in your organization who are examples of that purpose. If your purpose was to help home ownership in the area, in your local market, you find agents who do that every single day. Put them in the window with you, right? If you lead an organization and you said, you know what, collaboration that's the reason that we're doing this. That's the reason that we're coming together as a group of agents. We want to increase collaboration amongst our group. then find agents who collaborate at the highest levels and put them in the windshield, right? Put them in the window next to your purpose and say, this is who we are. You can also use catchphrases and mantras. So this one usually gets some chuckles, right? They're like, oh, that sounds kind of cheesy. But cheesy's good, right? Cheesy can be fun. Cheesy makes everyone laugh. And when you laugh together, you come together as a group. It's also very memorable, by the way. So your catchphrase and your mantra doesn't have to be cheesy, but if it borders on the cheesy line, just go for it, right? Just go for it, because that is actually a good, fun thing to create culture in your organization. So you can create that catchphrase or that mantra that reminds everyone who hears it, this is why we exist. And then just consistent messaging and reminders everywhere. So once you develop your purpose, put it in your presentations, remind everyone in meetings, right? Do everything you can, social media, taglines, to say this is who we are as a group of individuals. And again, it will attract the people that you want to work with. This is super, super powerful. Now let's talk about safety and belonging. So the second step of creating culture is to create a safe space where agents feel like they belong. They're like, this is home, right? So we have this place in our brain that's always worried about what others think about us. And our unconscious brains are deeply obsessed with safety and belonging. And it actually goes back thousands of years to when we lived in tribes and groups. And if the elders banished us from our tribe, it was like certain death, right? Lights out, you're done. So we have this place in our brain that is constantly wondering, like, okay, do I fit in here? Am I safe here? Do I belong here? And we need lots of belonging signals over and over again. So a sense of belonging, just like culture, is really easy to destroy and it's hard to build, right? So how do you build something? Hard to build, easy to destroy. Well, Steve Jobs actually said something that I love, and I use this quote in my personal life all the time. But he said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. And to build culture, you have to trust in the unseen. You have to trust that there's another dot right ahead of you, and another one, and another one, and another one, and that they're going to connect. And you have to plant these seeds knowing that you may not see the results of building culture in your organization right away, but you have to trust that they're there, that you're doing the right things. And attraction is really the opposite, right? So attraction's different. You can see the results in a short amount of time. Are you moving the prospect forward? Are they saying yes to another meeting? But retention and culture building, that takes trust. It's making eye contact. It's high fives. It's saying, congratulations, you did something awesome, right? Letting them know that you see them again and again and again. It's the I see you, I see you. And these belonging cues that we're sending, these are behaviors that create safe connections within a group. So belonging cues are the eye contact, right? I'm listening when you're talking to me. It's the high fives. It's the laughter. It could be the cheesy mantra, right? It could be inside jokes. It could be paying attention to someone. Body language, listening, right? These are all belonging cues that say you're safe here. You're safe here. And now belonging cues, to be effective, they have to do three things. So number one, there has to be an exchange of energy with a belonging cue. And I'll give you an example of what it's not. And that's multitasking when you're having a conversation with someone. So years ago, I took over a small office. It was a very struggling office, to say the least. And my job was to turn it around. So I came into this very struggling office. I had a lot of work to do. I had a big job. And so as I was, I was always working, right? Always doing something. And I had an agent that came in my office one day and he sat down and he asked his question, whatever it was. And I stopped and I looked at him and we had the conversation. I answered his question, whatever it was. And he said, I'm embarrassed to even tell this story. So he said, wow. He said, thank you for giving me the time today. He said, normally when I come in, you're still working on your computer. You'll glance at me and you'll answer my question and that will be it. He goes, so thank you for, paying attention and giving me time today. And I wanted to sink into the floor when he told me that. I want to sink into the floor now just telling that story because he was right. He was right. I was doing that all the time. I was multitasking because of course I can answer your purchase agreement question while I finish, whatever I'm doing on my computer. Of course I can. But should I? Probably not, right? Because there's no exchange of energy happening there. So when I actually took a minute and I stopped multitasking and I answered his question and I made eye contact, like for him, it was like this, wow, like thanks. And so lesson learned, right? Don't do what I did. So make sure that there's an exchange of energy. And then second, it's individualization. And that's just simply treating the person as unique, right? They're unique, they're valued. And members of an organization with a great culture, they need to see that there is a connection between their work, what they're doing every day, and the bigger picture. So a great way to do this, especially with new agents, is to go 5 levels deep with their questioning or with your questioning. So this is not, I have a purchase agreement question. This is like, okay, why are you in real estate? What are your goals? How can we help you? When you're sitting down having those conversations with agents, go 5 levels deep with the questioning. So what is your goal? And then you go the next level deep, which is, why is that important? And you go the next level deep. Okay, why does that matter? And you go another level. Why does that matter to you personally? And then you go the last level, which is, tell me more about that. And these are great coaching questions. You're going to learn so much about that agent when you ask these questions. And it does help them make the connection between work, why they're doing what they're doing, and the bigger picture. Now, if you're leading an organization and you're trying to coach someone, make sure that they're okay with being coached, right? So if you have that relationship with them, that's fantastic. If you're a team leader, these are great coaching questions to use. Now, if you want a great book, it's actually a fabulous book on coaching and asking great questions. The book Power Questions by Andrew Sobel. It's Sobel, Power Questions. It's a phenomenal book. And if you have a coaching relationship with agents in your organization or on your team, that's a great book to help you ask some great deep questions that will help you make the connection between what they're doing and the bigger picture. And then the last quality to be a belonging cue is future orientation. And that just means that you're giving signals that that relationship will continue. So it can be something as simple as telling new agents, you know what, I can't wait to see what you do in business. I'm here cheering you on the whole way. You're just telling them this relationship will continue. And so when you do that, these belonging cues add up to one thing, and that's you are safe here. You belong here. We're a group, right? So make sure that those belonging cues have those three qualities. And the last step of culture is vulnerability. Vulnerability is this psychological requirement for cohesion within a group. So when we have an interaction with someone, especially if we're in a leadership position, what we tend to do is we tend to hide any weaknesses that we have, right? Any vulnerability, any weaknesses, we're just going to hide them and like put them away and pretend like they don't exist. But if you want to create safety and culture within your organization, that's actually the wrong move. So we have to use phrases like, you know what, I could be wrong here, but what do you think, right? What am I missing? Are we on the right track? So when you have these questions and you go first as the leader and you show vulnerability, your group will then end up following. And what happens is it creates this vulnerability loop where everyone's like, okay, here's where I am in my business, but what do you think? What should I be doing differently? And it actually creates higher performance when you do this. I had a team team leader that I was meeting with the other day, that same group. And she said, I'm always going first. She said, I didn't know I was doing it, but I'm always going first with my agents saying, you know what do you think we should do? Am I off base here? Am I off track? Are we going on the right track? And so she said her agents share freely with her what they are struggling with, what they need help with, and they're an extremely high performing team. And she said, I didn't realize I was doing it, but I'm sharing vulnerability, and I'm creating this vulnerability loop. So there was a Navy SEALs Team 6 leader. His name was Dave Cooper. And he said, the 4 most important words that a leader can say is I screwed that up. He said, if you can't say those words, you're not a leader. And the guy leads he's a Navy SEAL, leads a SEAL Team 16. And I don't want to question anything that he says. So for more on culture, make sure that you check out The Culture Code by Daniel Coyle. When we talk about life-changing books, that book changed my life. I actually took a really deep dive course on that. And it helped me learn so much about culture, about retaining agents, keeping them happy, how to communicate with them. So it's a phenomenal book and I highly recommend it. So now let's talk about the 3 preventable reasons that agents leave. So we know how to create culture. We know vulnerability. We know that, the belonging cues, we know all of that. We're practicing that. We're putting that into practice within our organization. What are the 3 preventable reasons that agents leave? What are the, when the little spidey senses go off, right? What are the reasons that agents will say, you know what, maybe I'm going to be better off somewhere else? When we understand these, we can build stronger teams and really affect our retention rate within our group. So if you've been a broker, you've likely heard the saying, agents don't leave brokerages, they leave their broker. Now, when I was a broker, I did not like that saying, but it is true that agents will leave relationships that aren't giving them what they need. So if an agent feels disconnected from the people around them, they're going to begin looking for those connections somewhere else. And relationships, just like culture, are very hard to define. It's hard to understand and really know, like, what's our relationship like, especially in a business situation. Someone gave me some advice years ago, and I think it's very true. He said, the way you feel about someone is the way they feel about you. Now, is that always true? Nah, probably not. But is it often true? Yeah, probably, right? So think about how do you build a relationship with the agents in your organization or on your team, maybe when you're not exactly sure what that relationship is like, right? So obviously giving belonging cues over and over again, we talked about that. That's a big way. But another way to build deep relationships with the agents in your organization is to understand their primary motivator. So in real estate, there are 3 motivators that drive agents. One is money, one is personal achievement, and then the other one is helping others. And so we'll take deep dives into all 3 of those. But when you identify which one of those motivates your agents, you can tailor what you're saying, your communication style, to speak to them using their motivator. And it's really like you're speaking into their soul, right? Because these are the underlying drivers that influence someone's actions and decisions. If you're familiar with the book Love Languages, it's similar to that, but it's for business, right? So when it comes to love languages, like my love language is touch. So if my husband and I are holding hands, like I think it's amazing and everything's great. And he's like, meh. But if I unload the dishwasher because he's acts of service, then I am like the best wife ever, right? So that's my love language. And so the motivators, the primary motivators in real estate are very similar. So when you ask someone, what's your real estate goal? Pay attention to how they answer that question, because the way they answer that question will likely tell you what their primary motivator is. So if money is their primary motivator and you say, hey, Bob, tell me about your real estate goal. Bob's going to say, you know what, I'm in real estate because I want to pay off my bills, or I want to put my kids through college. If Bob's primary motivator is helping others, he'll say something like, you know what, I love helping people. I love, helping them find the house that's for them. Or he might say, I don't have a goal. I just love showing homes. Because people who love helping others, that's what fills their cup. So they don't have a goal of, 20 closings a year. They have a goal of helping as many people as they can, because that's what motivates them. And if their goal is personal achievement, and you say, Bob, what do you want to do in real estate this year? And he's a personal achievement agent, he'll say something like, I want to be the number 1 listing agent in the market, or I want to be on top of the leaderboard, right? Those are the things that someone who's personal achievement motivated, that's how they'll answer that question. So let's talk about motivator number 1, which is money. And by the way, money motivated agents, this is not a good thing and it's not a bad thing, right? So when you ask some agents and you say, what's your primary motivator? A lot of agents, they don't want to say money, even though it is, because they're like, I don't want to be like money hungry, or, like I'm not just in this for the money. It's okay for a lot of agents that the money represents financial success, and that's security, it's freedom, it's opportunities, right? Different opportunities to do different things within their life that they wouldn't have had the opportunity if they didn't have that money coming in. So again, the best way to find out what their primary motivator is to ask them and say, all right, Bob, of these three, which one is your primary driver in real estate? But also pay attention to the way they answer questions and the language they use, because they won't always say, I'm motivated by money, or I'm motivated by personal achievement, but you can understand it when you listen to their language. So if they say, or you think that money is their primary motivator, use that language when you connect with them. So you can say things like if they're on your team, you can say, hey, that commission on your last closing was fantastic. Like, way to hold your value, right? And that they will love that, because again, that's what motivates them. If they're not on your team and they're in your organization, you can say something like, hey, I saw that you capped like 100% club. Super cool. Way to go. You can say, hey, have you thought about taking fast cap? Agents that take fast cap and they graduate, they're increasing their gross commission income. You can even say, I just noticed that you listed another property. Like, more listings, more money. Like, congrats, Bob. Way to go, right? So I'm sure you all know this, by the way, but if you are a team leader, you can go into My eXp and you can download the details of your team members. And so you can find things that they've done to recognize them. If you're an organization leader, you can do the same. You can go into My eXp, you can download your organization details and find things that your agents have done to recognize them. So use the verbiage that speaks to their motivator. So if they're money motivated, make it about money. You had a closing that you got paid. Yay, congratulations. And that excites them and it keeps them driven to go out and do more of those things that make them feel good, which is making money. And then also do this. So you can celebrate their financial milestones. So they capped, they icon, they hit an income goal. Anything like that will make them feel seen. You can educate them on, how do you make the most money at eXp? Let's talk about lead gen. Let's talk about referrals. It could be My Link, My Lead, Utility Connect, America's Preferred Home Warranty, attraction, right? Are they looking to add attraction as an additional revenue stream? Do they understand that we have growth directors that can help them? We have an attraction toolkit. So educate them on maximizing their earning potential, and that will keep them at eXp. And then ask questions like, what does financial success look like to you? So when you do that, you get an idea of what motivates them and where they might need help, and you can point them in that direction. So those are your money motivated agents. Now, your personal achievement agents. So this is me. This is my driver. It's all about seeing name and lights, right? Like, that's what drives me. So I always wanted to be like number one. When I took over that office and it was struggling, I'm like, we will get to number one market share. And we did, right? Because I wanted to be number one. That's what drives them. Now, this is my driver. And so if you're a team leader, there's something you need to be aware of. So I started on my own in real estate, realized I had no idea what I was doing in real estate. So I joined a team, which was great, until I wrote my first contract under the team leader's name. And I didn't like that. I'm putting the team leader name on the contract. My buyer, I'm showing houses, like, what's up? So just know that if you're a team leader and you have agents on your team who are motivated by personal achievement, there might be some like scratchiness there with, writing things under the team name, with seeing the team name on the leaderboard and not their name. So just be aware of that. It doesn't mean that they're going to leave your team anytime soon, but there are things that you can say and do that will keep them there longer. So let's talk about this. So what do you say to your personal achievement motivated agents? Well, if they're on your team, you can say something like, did you know you have the highest lead conversion of anyone on the team this month? And they're going to go, no way, that's super cool, right? If they're in your organization, you can say something like, Did you know that you added the most frontline agents of anyone in the organization this month or this week or today, right? So recognize them for the things that they're excelling at. Did you know you took the highest price listing of anyone in the organization, or you had, a great closing and, it was higher than anyone else's, sales price? Anything like that makes them feel like they're winning, they're going to love it, right? And then have you thought about taking FastCap? Agents that graduate are top level. They are the ones to beat. And they're going to go, well, I want to beat the other agents, right? Because I'm personally motivated, right? And then I just noticed that you hit a new milestone in your closed volume, like way to go. So anything that they're doing like that, where they're excelling, they're leading the way, they're number one, they're top 10, they're top 20, anything like that, that will motivate them to keep going. And if they're on your team, that will motivate them to stay on your team even longer. And then what do, right? So we recognize their success in the meetings. Whenever we can, recognize what they're doing. Show them where they're outpacing the rest of your team or the organization. And then help them start their own team if they're interested. They may not be interested, but if they are, help them start their own team. A lot of our personal motivated agents, they're team leaders. And so help them do that. Now, if they're on your team as a team member, you can also help them graduate off your team. And you're like, that sounds like counterproductive, right? But those agents, recognize them on your team, will keep them there longer. But know that they will likely, if they get to the point where they can sustain their own business, they will likely roll off your team because they want to see their name on the contracts, on the leaderboard, right? That's what motivates them. So if you help them to graduate off your team, it's actually a really cool story to tell. Like Bob came on to the team and he did X, Y, Z, and then now he's over there on his own, just, going like crazy. He's on fire. Versus, well, Bob left the team and he was one of the top agents. So wonder what happened there, right? So control the narrative and tell that story when they get to the point where they're not going to stay on your team any longer. And then motivator number 3 is helping others. So these are also team leaders, actually, a lot of the time, because there are some team leaders, they love helping others. And so they're like, I'm going to start a team and I'm going to help more agents. And I can help more clients. It's going to be the best thing ever. But sometimes the agents who are like, they're just getting by in real estate, they're motivated by helping others because they love going above and beyond. Like, that's what, it just makes their soul sing, right? They love going above and beyond. So I'm just going to show a few more houses just to make sure my client's happy, right? Now, if they want to increase their production, but they're not sure how, sometimes it's just helping them to see that by making some tiny shifts, right, you can help more people when you do X, Y, and Z. So let's talk about what to say to them. So you can say things like, we have a new agent in the organization. Would you mind meeting with them and helping them understand how we do business? And that agent's going to go, yes, of course, I would love to do that, right? Because they love helping others. Have you thought about taking FastCap? Graduates can help so many more people. So we're using their language that speaks to who they are and, what drives them. And then, I just noticed that you helped 4 clients this month get to where they want to be. Like, super, super cool. And once they make that connection, like, they're going to be off, right? They're just going to take off running. But we have to sometimes help them understand that sometimes some tiny tweaks in how they do business, they can go out and they can help more clients. And that's everything for them. And then do this, right? Make sure that you're offering opportunities to mentor new agents, helping them understand, hey, we have a mentor program at eXp. Maybe that's something that would be beneficial to you now, or when you get to that point in your career. And maybe it's leading different initiatives in the organization. It could be creating some environments through masterminds or group trainings where they're helping other agents who might be struggling with something. And then recognizing their impact in the organization as culture builders or as mentors. They love that. So when you understand the primary motivator of your agents, you can drastically deepen the relationship that you have. So take just a couple minutes here, and my slides are a little compressed. So, but take just a couple minutes here and jot down some of the agents on your team or in your organization and what you think their motivator is. So you don't have to be 100% correct. It's not pass fail. But start thinking about what they say. Start thinking about what you think drives them and how you can support them with the motivator that they have. So take a couple minutes, just jot down those agents. I'm going to keep going. You can unpause when you're done. But we're going to talk about preventable reason number 2 that agents will leave a brokerage. And that is that they think they're going to make more money somewhere else. And this, by the way, has nothing to do with fees and splits. Nothing. This is simply, can I hit my financial goals at the brokerage? Can they pay their bills? Can they save for vacation? Can they save for college? Help agents understand and set, clear financial goals. Help them understand how to get to those goals and help them create a roadmap. So we have a relationship with Sisu, right? You can use Sisu to help them understand, like, hey, you could put your income goals in Sisu and you can track your conversion rate. Like, how many contacts, appointments, contracts, and closings do you need to have in order to hit your financial goals? So help them understand, like, hey, we have this really super cool tool that you can use to help you, create that financial plan. Highlight, again, the different streams of income that they can take advantage of at eXp. So it could be sales, referrals, attraction. The main thing with this one, though, is they have to have a plan. So sometimes agents go, oh, yeah, I know about all the different things that are here, but they don't have a plan. So what these agents need is they need something that says, get from A to B, and here are the 3 things that can help you do that. And then ask questions like, are you on track to meet your financial goals? What's standing in your way? How can I help you? They don't leave over fees and splits. They leave because they don't have a plan or they're not executing that plan. And then the last reason, preventable reason, that agents will leave a brokerage is they don't understand the value that the brokerage or the team provides, right? So we have to really help agents understand the value that's right in front of them at eXp. So Tony King is one of our VPs of growth, and he compares it to a vending machine. He said, when you walk up to a vending machine and you put your money in, you don't just walk away without making a selection. So don't do that in your business, right? So make a selection. Make sure that you understand the value, the tools, the resources, the support, everything that's right in front of you at eXp. So help those agents understand, no matter what your goals are, we have tools and resources that will help you at eXp. And then share those success stories of agents who implemented Sisu, FastCap, whatever it is, they implemented that into their business, and here are the results that they got. So before I show you, I've actually got a toolkit to show you. I'm going to give you a sneak peek of a retention and a sponsorship toolkit that we're developing for you. We're just putting the final touches on it. But before I show that to you, I want you to think about the agents in your organization that might be at risk of leaving. So use your spidey senses here for a second. Any at-risk agents in your organization, write their name down. Write the reason that you think they might be leaving. So is it they think they're going to make more money somewhere else? Is it a lack of strong relationships? Is it they don't understand the value that eXp provides? And then write down what you think the best action is for those agents. So I'm going to let you do that. You can unpause when you're done. And now I'm going to show you the sneak peek of the sponsorship and retention toolkit. So here we go. All right. So this is something that, again, we're just finalizing this. So be on the lookout for this to drop actually here really soon. But what we're doing is we're giving you extra tools, the stuff that we talked about today. What are the 3 preventable reasons that agents leave? Is it relationships? Here's some resources that you can use with the agents in your organization. Let's recognize our agents on social media, right? The financial reason, right? They think they're going to make more money somewhere else. What are the resources that we have at eXp that can help them? Again, giving them recognition, so important. Remember, it's that I see you over and over again. And then value. So if they don't understand the value that eXp provides, Well, guess what? We have a new eXp Value Explained slide deck that's coming with this toolkit. And what we've done, it's actually pretty cool. So instead of just saying, here's all of the value at eXp, which is what we've done in the past, we've actually taken the value and we've divided it by pathway, right? So I'm a team leader. What's my team leader path? What's most important for me to take advantage of as a team leader right now at eXp? Let me just look at those. If I'm a new agent, what's my new agent value path? If I'm an icon, what's my icon value path? So that's the difference in the Value Explained slide deck. It breaks it down by what path are you on, and let us show you the things that are here at eXp specifically for you. And then we're going to go into the 3 core motivators for agents, right? So money, personal achievement, helping others. And again, we have different resources for all of the agents in your organization. So, okay, be on the lookout for that toolkit to drop really soon, but I gave you a sneak peek today. So I am so excited to help you build culture and retain agents in your organization. So let me know how I can help.